Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Monday, April 3rd, 2023, and today I am sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, at the podcast page, and that is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. It's been quite a while as well, just putting it out there. If anyone has any stories about experiences you'd like to share, names are not important. You can always reach me at my email, which is salcidoparanormal@gmail.com, and I will share what you want and leave out the rest. So, just want to let everyone know about that. Also, if you would like to support the show, you can do that in a few ways. Of course, by sharing the show, and then if you like fiction or nonfiction within the paranormal, you can find me on Amazon. I have some books there you can buy if you'd like. Or, of course, I also have other ways to just donate to the show. And all those links can be found in a pinned post here in Discord on this channel, this text channel. And, of course, I include them in the episode description. So, also, I've already announced this yesterday, but on another show, so I want to do it here as well, that coming soon, I will be on a new place to listen, where you can all listen. Not live, it'll be the podcasts, but a good friend of the show and a guest, Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio, has a network now, an online radio station now. And so my show will be coming soon to that station. So I will... Once we have everything figured out as far as air times and all that, I will let you all know, and we'll go from there. And then you'll be able to listen there, as well as on all the podcast feeds and YouTube. So, just really happy and honored to be part of that. And so, yeah, looking forward to that, and hopefully reaching more and more people, and making the paranormal a little bit less frightening for more and more people. So in the future. Let's see here. So I think that's everything for today as far as announcements go. So I can get down to these stories here. And whatever we don't get to today, I'll save for the next time. So let's see here. This first one says, these first couple are leftovers from last time. This first one says, I've been going to this summer camp for 2 weeks, once a year for a while now, and I really enjoy it. This experience hasn't changed that either. On the second night of my latest visit, I woke up early in the morning and saw something I couldn't explain. It was a translucent figure, pale but also bright. It walked through the tent entrance, across the length of the tent, and then stopped at the window in the back. And so, obviously, this is one of those larger tents that can seat, or that can multiple people can sleep in. So, it says, I was frightened, so I closed my eyes and hid as well as I could. When I opened my eyes and looked again, it was still standing at the end of the tent. It then turned and walked out of the tent. I told everyone about it in the morning, but of course, no one believed me. So later that day, I had an idea. I took a flashlight and set it up so that it would be easy for who or whatever was there to turn it on. Another camper joined me, and we started asking questions. This light seemed to respond, indicating there was someone there, after all. This is my one and only paranormal experience. So, that's an amazing story there, amazing experience. I wonder if there was, it seems like, I mean, unless it's someone that passed at some point in the history of that camp, and that tent was put in the same spot every year for a long time. It seems like that was some kind of an intelligent being. I don't know if that'd be, I think the chances of it being residual are maybe not as good because of it being a tent, not a permanent structure. Unless that tent just happened to line up with a place where a building might have been, and it just worked out that way, which I guess is possible. But then also the activity with the flashlight. Now, it doesn't say in the story, but I'm guessing that they must have seen something on TV. That whole process of using the flashlight, probably saw it on TV. I'm guessing, which is where you have a flashlight that I think they call it a mag light, where you turn a dial or a knob to turn it on or and off, and people will use that and set it to where it doesn't take much to turn it on or off, and have whoever's there or whatever's there communicate by turning the light on or off for yes or no. And so I think that maybe where they got the idea, unless they could have just thought of it. I mean, I guess that's possible as well. But it's definitely, I think, in the paranormal community, it's a fairly well-known process now, I think. But yeah, that sighting as well is really amazing. I wonder, again, I'd love to know more of the history of that place, and maybe try to figure out who that was. But neat story there. So, moving on to the next one, and then we'll get on to the stories I found today. Let's see here. Okay. This one says, earlier tonight, my girlfriend and I went for a walk down a path that went through a forest. We both noticed a man walking his dog, coming down the path from the opposite direction. We stopped at this point, as it was odd for anyone else to be walking in the forest, or in the same area, I'm sorry, so late at night. The man and his dog then turned off the path, going into the woods. My girlfriend questioned this after he was gone, asking why he would have done that. All I could think of was that he was taking a shortcut that only he was aware of. We continued on our walk until we reached the place where the man and dog had left the path. There was no way the man and dog could have walked through the bushes that grew there. And yet, that is what we had both seen. I've been in some creepy abandoned buildings late at night and never had anything happen before, so I never believed much in the paranormal. Still, I can't find any other explanation for what we saw other than that it was a ghost. So that's where that story ends. That seems possible. That it was some kind of either a spirit or a residual image of people, a person and a dog from some other time, maybe when there was not a bush there. Just a neat sighting there. Again, it sounds like the bush that was there was not just a tiny one. I mean, bushes, if you're going to walk through them, especially, and most of them are going to have like twigs and other things that stick out, and it doesn't sound like it should have been easy for these figures to walk through that bush. So, of course, I say that because I don't really do much walking out in nature, so I don't really know how thick bushes have to be for people to not be able to walk through them. But apparently, according to the writer, what they and their girlfriend saw, they don't think that the person should have been able to pass through those bushes. So I'll take their word for that. And yeah, who knows if there was some path there before, or some other way to get through the area before, and it's just not there now, or if it was some kind of sentient apparition of both the man and the dog, and they knew they could pass through solid objects, and for whatever reason decided to just get away from the people that were on the path and go through the woods. Hard to tell, but neat story in that nothing really frightening happened. The apparitions didn't do anything to try to scare or harm anyone. They just were going on their way. So, moving on to the next story here. These are the ones that I found today. And this one says, this happened about 50 years ago when I was around 4 years old. My family was camping somewhere in the southern part of the U.S., possibly in the northern part of Mexico. My family had just set up camp. My father and sister went to scout out the area, while my mother went to get water. I was sitting at the picnic table, playing with a toy or a doll of some kind, with my legs crossed. Not long after this, I started feeling as though I was floating into the air, even though my legs were still on the picnic table bench. I was not frightened by this sensation, just curious, and still mostly just happy to be playing with my toy. I also did not sense any presence nearby that could be causing this experience. It was amazing, as I could see more of the world around me from my vantage point a few feet higher into the air. I could hear the bugs and other creatures in nature around me, and I could feel a breeze flowing around me as well. It was not long after that I heard my mother returning to camp, and somehow I floated back down to the picnic table. I got up and ran over to my mother. I told her about how I had floated in the air and the things I felt, heard, and saw. But, of course, she thought I was telling her what was going on in my imagination. I have never had an experience like that again, and wonder if others have had similar experiences. So that's the end of that story. To me, that sounds like possibly an out-of-body experience. It's odd, though, because the writer doesn't say that they fell asleep while sitting there. It sounds like it just happened, which is really amazing, because that doesn't seem to be as common, except maybe in, of course, near-death experiences, those kinds of situations. But obviously that's not what was going on there, as far as we can tell from that story. But the writer was not frightened or nervous or anything. There was nothing negative going on, which is really just an amazing experience there. I've had some out-of-body experiences, but I always, for some reason or other, end up in other places that I don't recognize. It's really odd. I've never had an out-of-body experience where, at least that I can remember clearly, where I was in the same place where I fell asleep. I always end up in some other place. So, and as maybe some longtime listeners will know, a lot of times when this happened with me, it'd be a place I didn't recognize when it happened, but then I would end up going there in person months or years later, and seeing the place while with other people. And so it's not quite the same, but yeah, just an amazing experience there. Glad that it wasn't negative in any way. Um, so, yeah, neat story. So let's see here. I think I'll move on to the next one. And we'll see how many of these we get through. This one says, "This is going to sound crazy, but it really happened. My mother, her boyfriend, my sister, my boyfriend, and I went out for a walk around the area where we live. And my mom decided to visit the place where my childhood home had been before it had been demolished recently. The only thing left of it was an old shed at this point. My mom was telling her boyfriend about how haunted the place had been. As she spoke, my sister and I saw a small blue light appear in front of us. It then expanded, as if in an explosion, making me wonder if it was a portal of some kind. I thought I was the only one seeing it until I saw my sister's face. She has always been very skeptical of anything paranormal. The light was almost blinding, and somehow beautiful and frightening all at the same time. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished. I know how crazy this sounds, but it really happened." And that's where that story ends. The blue light, I really wonder if if the writer just thought it was a portal because of something they had seen in popular culture, either on TV or movies, or it almost makes me think of possibly like if they had seen Stargate in any way, any of the Stargate universe. Well, I mean, the Stargate franchise of TV shows and movies and stuff. If they were equating it to that, or if they somehow sensed that it was a portal. I think that's an important distinction there. Of course, they don't really go into that, but I think it would be important to know that, as if they just thought it was one, or if they somehow sensed it was one, to know what was going on there. Because it does sound like an orb, in a way, an anomalous light that got bigger for just a moment and then was gone. So it could have just been that. But I mean, we really don't know what orbs are. How do we know that they're not, in some cases, some kind of mobile portal? There's really no way to know. And I always say I don't think that orbs or lights that are seen are any one thing necessarily. I think they can be a lot of different things. So yeah, just that is an amazing sighting, and I'm glad that the writer had verification of the sighting, especially from someone that was a skeptic. That's always amazing, I would say, and had that happen once, so I kind of know what that's like. Excuse me. And so yeah, neat story there. And maybe it was a portal, hard to say. And maybe it wasn't. So let's see here. Okay, moving on to the next story. This one says, "I have had many odd experiences, but this is one I cannot explain. It happened in a school where I work. All of the students were gone, and I was cleaning up after them, spraying things down with an alcohol cleaning solution. With that done for the moment, I placed the spray bottle on the counter near me. I am sure I placed the bottle well away from the edge of the counter. I turned away for a moment, and then stopped as I heard a sound behind me. So I turned and looked at the counter, and then watched as the bottle appeared to jump up and out into the air and then fall on the floor. Although there have been many strange and possibly paranormal things that have happened at this school, this is the one thing that I cannot explain away. So that's the end of that story. And yeah, I have no idea what to make of that. It could be just all the energy from everyone that's there. Sounds like the usual term for that would be something like a poltergeist in a way. But yeah, it's just sometimes I wonder about that with those kind of, when objects move like that. It makes me wonder if because when I first started looking into all this, I always figured that whatever happened, it had to be caused by some kind of sentience, some kind of being that was doing whatever they were doing for whatever reason. But now I wonder with the way, just with the way we don't really understand how everything works and energy and just everything really. If things like this maybe can happen, if they can't happen without someone directing these things to happen. If these things if objects just can't be moved due to any number of variables involving energy and who knows what else. So, but yeah, that one, it's hard to know what's going on there, except for just what the writer saw. So let's see here. Let's see if I have time for this last one. Let me see here. Alright, I will try this. This one says, at the time this happened, I lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment building. There are 4 flights of stairs, each connecting one floor to the next, and finally the parking garage at the bottom. I was waiting for a package to be delivered and decided to head down to the ground level to check for it. The stairs and doors are all metal, including the doorknobs. Before I could open the door on my floor that would lead into the stairwell, the doorknob started to turn. I figured someone was coming up, and so I waited as the knob continued to turn until it had made it a full 360 degrees. Then it turned back, and all was still and silent again. I know this because I was listening carefully at this point, trying to figure out what was going on, and where this person on the other side of the door could have gone without making noise. I finally opened the door, expecting to hear or see someone, but there wasn't anyone around besides me. This blew my mind. I was in awe of what had just happened, as I was sure that it could not be explained. The only way I can describe the event is, of course, paranormal. And that's the end of that story, and I agree. It sounds like everything there, the stairs and the doors and everything, would have made noise in a lot of cases, especially the door. And it doesn't seem like it did that other than just the knob turning. There was no other sound besides that. So hard to say what happened there, except maybe someone that could not be seen or heard was trying to open the door for whatever reason. So, and yeah, that's all I have for that. Nothing else really to add to that story. Thank you all for listening as always, and I'll be back tomorrow to cover paranormal news on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.